Islam.
Islam.
Let's start off with the prayer. Face the east. Father on the left, two on the right. Allah, Father of the universe.
Allah, Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Peace. Freedom.
And justice. Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide. And my salvation. By night. And by day. His holy prophet. Islam. Lots going on right now. Today we're correcting the director of Hidden Colors.
Yeah.
Because he had some video out there. Huh?
Is he correctable?
He might not be correctable, but people listen to him are correctable.
Well, I wanted to talk to a girl the other day. She said, "They talking about Hidden Colors." I said, "No," but they talk. I'll go with it.
It's had an impact. It's definitely had an impact. We're just going to read our letters to be read every meeting. Islam, I'm glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people on our side of the nation that claim it was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me, so they themselves may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement an uplifting fund. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I am calling upon all faithful Moors to increase your faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the last few years. Noble Ali. So I'm doing some research this morning on Marcus Garvey, because I finally got this book back. Philosophies and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. And as I was going through, there's the application for pardon from the United States Federal Prison in Atlanta, Georgia, that Marcus Garvey wrote to the president in order to get his pardon. It's his support letter. So the word is that when Marcus Garvey was in prison, all the members of the UNIA or whatever came together, and they wanted to make a plea to the president for them to release Marcus Garvey. As the story goes, because of their extensive efforts in reaching the president, that made the president release Marcus Garvey, but then they deported him right after. Right? So we're going to read a couple portions of this application for pardon written by Marcus Garvey, that's in Philosophies and Opinions, that we must add none of the Garveyites or whatever like that don't talk about this stuff. When they should, if they say that they honor him and all that, they should be talking about these matters that are in this letter, or this pardon that Marcus Garvey wrote while in prison. Okay? This is on page 257. The fact that millions of Negroes still believe in and follow me is proof that those interested in my work and on whose account I was supposed to be indicted, convicted, and imprisoned do not believe that I have defrauded them and have more confidence in me than the prosecutor and those allied with him to injure me. The prosecutor's reference to such a large number of people as being ignorant is a gross reflection against the race and an illogical assumption. For in experience, if the world has found it so hard to lead intelligence, how much more difficult would it be to lead large numbers of ignorant people and to have those people believe in a single leadership when around him is organized all the power and authority of the destruction to discredit him, and court failure for all his efforts, in which he said people have invested their money, and with the individual arrested by the law, convicted, and imprisoned. That after I secured my first paper for naturalization and the information became known, my political enemies hurried up and forced my indictment so as to prevent me from the full rights of citizenship, to further lend force to my leadership, which they feared for selfish personal reasons, and that my trial and conviction was made returnable just immediately prior to the time I was to have become eligible for the full rights of citizenship. Now, so this is Marcus Garvey, head of the UNIA, right? You know that this is Negro.
Negro what?
Improvement Association. The United Negro Improvement Association, at the time of Marcus Garvey's incarceration, was about to go through the same transition that Malcolm X went through after he came back from Harvard. Right? So the idea is you come into the fact that you're knowledgeable of some aspect of your history. So, right? You come into some aspect of your history. In coming into this aspect, or in coming to this school of thought, or into this consciousness, or whatever it's defined as, there's supposed to be dramatic yet practical changes that is going to change your mind frame so that you can change how you live as a human being. Because prior to knowing about UNIA, Noble Juali, Nation of Islam, whatever, we were so-called considered slaves that don't have any knowledge of stuff. We don't know, they stole our culture, all that stuff. We don't know who we are. We don't know what our name is. We don't know our language. You know, we're under somebody's boot heel. They got Jim Crow law. They got segregation law. They got black codes. They got all these things going on that, you know, we can't seem to get out of, right? And then comes these avenues for us to know about ourselves. So the UNIA dealt with Negro until Marcus Garvey's incarceration. When Marcus Garvey got incarcerated, now they're bringing up things like, you know, like naturalization, right? That term, naturalization, right, only applies to foreigners. Right? The term naturalization only applies to foreigners. So when you hear Marcus Garvey saying that in his pardon, he's making the request that his naturalization be recognized. He's proving that as a foreigner, right, he doesn't really have jurisdiction. He doesn't really have the leader of the UNIA position that he claimed if he's a foreigner. Because the Universal Negro Improvement Association was not something founded in the African continent that it would apply there. It was founded here. So it has to apply in the jurisdiction of its founding.
Sorry, question. I was reading it, and it states in there that he was appointed to the head.
Right.
Want to find it, or it has to be put on the record that it says that he was appointed to be.
And remember, his appointment was from the members of this.
So he wasn't the founder?
Right. He founded, but as it's like it's similar to somebody becomes national and then they start a temple and then they become queen and king of the whatever, and they have all these titles that, you know what I mean?
Well, I think it's different in my mind. Where I founded it, created it, there had a bunch of people in here. There needed to be a hierarchy. So then we said, it's like Cujo. Open up the temple, like, hey, I'm running this. We say, well, we need a leader. So then we appoint Cujo.
Right.
Okay.
That's how I see it.
Right.
Right? Like he created it. There's all these people, and they're like, we need to have someone who's going to run it.
Okay.
Who would we have naturally run it? The guy who
Founded it.
founded
Right.
the problem, right?
Right.
That's
Right. So we have to also recognize that,
or more importantly, just to jump into, they may have had an election process.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
That could have been another angle, right?
right. Now, even if they had a process to bring forth a legitimate appointment, right? They're Negroes. So they don't have any authority to appoint anybody to be anything, even in their own jurisdiction, because of their status being Negro. Openly. Not like they're hiding it. Like they're saying that they're Negro. The head is saying that the Negro people of the world and speaking in that nature, right? Now, what we're bringing this up for is to show how naturalization admits the jurisdiction, because there's Moors that say that you should naturalize in order to proclaim your nationality, right? This information about the naturalization papers of Marcus Garvey is coming up after the trial and everything. He's in prison right now. This should have been something that was brought up prior, that he's of this particular status. It's not something that you write in your pardon letter. This is something that if you have a lawyer or whatever like that, they've done brought this up. That he's naturalized. Like, why is he, if he's a citizen, he should be treated according to the laws that govern society, not the code, which, you know, mail fraud, that's code. That's not no constitutional thing or whatever. Right? On top of that, all the different fraudulent things that were happening during the case, that was enough to get the case dismissed. Now, there was things happening in the case with judges and prosecutors being on the same side and stuff like that. Please, bro. Please. Good. Right? So as we analyze the verbiage, the wording that is coming up, you're going to realize that people have a lot more information than they're giving on. They know more things than they're presenting to people. For there to be now this is the same thing with the thing about conscious people. When more start talking, conscious people want to talk. Well, you got to meet the people where they're at, so you got to dumb it down for them so they can understand where you're coming from or whatever.
Yeah.
Garvey talking about naturalization. That's a law term.
Yeah.
So Garvey has some type of knowledge about law or something like that. If he's going to be using this term naturalization, but that's not a term that you're not going to hear in the conscious black whatever circle. You're not hearing that term. You're only going to hear that term amongst Moors. You're only going to hear that term amongst people who are studying law. So for us to acknowledge that this is why we can see that he was made forerunner of the Moorish movement, right? He was made forerunner of the Moorish movement because as a Negro, he had a mentality of nationhood that he didn't even know that he was even on that frequency. Now we also have Marcus Garvey, when he was in Atlanta prison, being visited by Noble Drew Ali, that they got the postcards and everything to prove that they even met. Okay? Now, the other part that's brought up that you don't hear the so-called black community, Garveyites, whoever else talking about, right, is the level of constitutional expression that's in Marcus Garvey's tone as he's writing this letter about pardon, right? Keep in mind that we already know that he mentioned naturalization, right? He already mentioned that. To prevent enemies of established order making capital out of the act of injustice, persecution, and prejudice, to inflame in the future and at the time of need the minds of millions of blacks throughout the world against bureaucracy, oligarchy, imperialism, and capitalism, which may have a strong appeal in the light of history for the unfortunate and oppressed whom I am endeavoring to lead by a peaceful and friendly agitation for reasonable return of their African heritage. To uphold the sacred principles of American justice, for which the noble fathers of the Republic have bled and died. To uphold the undying and sacred words and declarations of Lincoln, that this nation, armed with the grand and marvelous achievements for human liberty and justice in the last couple centuries, will not allow itself to be inveigled into doing a grave wrong to one whose only crime is an honor to liberate his race by the creation of a new nationalism, and because of this attempt to lead the members of his oppressed race in this direction, that the Declaration of Independence may not be regarded in the future by Negroes as a selfish expression of a clannish group, but that its sentiment was intended to bless all humanity, including the future hope of the black race. This is Garvey talking. Who these guys say is black power and all that, and go back to Africa. But he's telling the Negroes that they have to consider the wording of the Declaration of Independence, because it's not some European clan mentality type of thing that they came up with so they can be free and then enslave the rest of the world. It was a guideline that they got from somewhere that they were using to free themselves, and if humanity had enough common sense, they'll do the same thing like what the Europeans did when they came here. Find out who the sovereign is. Oh yeah, you're the sovereign. All right, we want to show allegiance to you. Write a letter to them that they're declaring their independence, showing allegiance to this individual who's the sovereign of whatever the nation is, and give us a response and let us know what's up. Then that's acquiescence, which means you're down with what we put in the letter, right? And if you do have a rebuttal, then send it in writing. Here's the address, and we await your reply or whatever. So Garvey using the Declaration of Independence as an example for the black race to have future hope is the same thing what the Moors are saying, right? That the effort of Lincoln to free and help the Negro in this direction will not be in vain. That the following declaration of Thomas Jefferson, might not be worthless when, quote, when the measure of their tears shall be full, when their groans shall have involved heaven itself in darkness. Doubtless a God of justice will awaken in their distress, and by diffusing light and liberality among their oppressors, or at length by his exterminating thunder, manifest his attention to the things of the world, and that they are not left to the guidance of a blind fatality. Right? Just like me and one of the Moors were talking this morning about, these so-called leaders lead people to the cliff, where when you look down, it's just clouds, and tell them, don't worry, jump, you're going to land on something. When they don't even know what the future holds for them going off the cliff. Then everyone off their self to see, and come back up and tell everybody, well, yo, you know what? I took the plunge, and, you know what I mean? You're going to make it. They're not even doing that. Right? Key point that Garvey makes right here. Because the Negro is not happy and will never be until he is restored to his own nationality.
Say that again.
Because the Negro is not happy and will never be until he is restored to his own nationality, and my ability to continue my work in this behalf will bless the nation. For as Thomas Paine says, no man can be happy surrounded by those whose happiness has been destroyed.
That's what basically happened with black people.
Right?
Trying to keep them in the black states because we're unhappy and we don't want you to be happy because you find your way home. True identity, you'll be happy and
Then you'll
free.
be happy and free.
Well,
Because that's what freedom is. Freedom is happiness.
Yes. Beyond energy notes,
Right.
beyond your money and all that, because then you're really no.
Right.
They don't want us to get our wealth back, our land back, and our inheritance back.
Right.
I was just at a store just now, so-called African store. The woman said to me, "Oh, that's a man. What's that?" So I gave her a quick, "I'm a Moor.
Yeah.
I'm from this land," but she didn't get it. And then I just left. But anyways, no, but she's a Moor. But I didn't get it. I wasn't there to give her a big lesson or anything. Just did a little business and left. But she didn't know. Where are you from? I said, I'm from here. Then she said, I'm a Moor. I said, this is Morocco. She started talking to me. Do you speak French? I said, no,
Yeah.
I'm a
French
Moor.
protectorate, right?
Yeah, but I said, I'm not talking about Morocco and so-called
Over there,
Africa.
yeah.
I'm talking about the empire, Morocco here, where America comes from. She looked at me kind of confused, and I said, see you later. But I said, my mother lives in Nova Scotia. I picked up a thing from my mother.
Yeah.
Go ahead, more.
Right. So you still supported the African store. But, it's the family.
Yes.
Right? You're going to go anywhere else.
Exactly.
Right? As a Moor. Right?
Exactly.
So get caught up with Moors aren't down with African and Moors can't say Africa and we're against black people and all that stuff. We're not. We recognize, just like Garvey recognized, that in order for
Are you on here? They can see
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Okay, let's keep talking. I'll show you what I got.
As long as the Negro is
Back to that statement with Paine there that okay,
No, I just want to show them.
put it up.
they say this is African, but this is really a Moor. That's why I got it from her shop. That's why I got it. She's a Moor. You know, if they want to call it African shop, but this on this outfit that I got from my mother, she's a Moor. A Moabitess.
True enough. Right, yeah, you were saying with
No, I was just reiterating when it's saying that. What was the statement again?
because the Negro is not happy and will
Okay.
never be until he is restored to his own nationality.
So the part where it's
And my ability to continue my work on this behalf will bless the nation. For as Thomas Paine says, no man can be happy, surrounded by those whose happiness he has destroyed.
okay. So that leads me to believe, I have to say believe, that a lot of the leaders will never live in the neighborhood where all the other
Right.
other
Exactly.
black people live.
Right.
That's
Right.
why you see them up on the hills.
Up
and
on the
they're
hill looking down on them.
looking down on them. Because it's like, I can't go down there.
Right.
They kick the crap out of me if I go down
Now,
there. If they find out,
Right.
yeah.
And find out what's really good.
You know what I mean?
So, and keep in mind that Marcus Garvey, prior to him getting arrested,
Mhm.
had this writing. Right. This is the right, like we're saying, this is the transition from black man, Negro, whatever, citizen. I'm not going to say more, right? From black man to de jure citizen, right? Great ideals, no nationality. So this is the black man talking about.
what do you say again?
Great ideals, no nationality. So disregarding nationality,
Okay.
right? So this is how he used to talk,
Amen.
right? Right, same as Al-Hajj,
All right.
right? As Malcolm, you know, black and white people are devils and all this type of stuff. Come back from the Hajj, it's a totally different thing. Oh, everybody is human. Everybody needs human rights. Everybody has human rights if they're citizens and all this type of stuff. Changed up this whole tune, right? Because what did he find out? Found out that he doesn't have to go across the Atlantic to be home. Home's here. Home where he was
And,
or is.
and just like Cash,
Right. He's not going all over anywhere to go fight anybody. You stay here and fight the devils here. We're going all the way across the world to go fight devils in Vietnam when there's devils here, lynching brothers and sisters.
and when he realized he wasn't Cash's prey, he became
Right. Ali.
Ali.
Transition again. So this is something that quote unquote black people have done. They've come from being a fractured mindset into a corrected mindset. And then it starts with recognizing that you have to tie yourself to some kind of national identity. You can't just say because you have the knowledge that black people built pyramids, now you're conscious. It mean nothing. That's just talk. So great ideals, no nationality. So this is the black Garvey. Right? My enemies in America have done much to hold me up to public contempt and ridicule, but have failed. They believe that the only resort is to stir up national prejudice against me, in that I was not born within the borders of the United States of America. I am not in the least concerned about such a propaganda, because I have traveled the length and breadth of America, and I have discovered that among the 15 million of my race, only those who have exploited and lived off the ignorance of the masses are concerned with where I was born. The masses of the people are Christian. They desire sincere, honest guidance in racial affairs. As proof of this, I may mention that the largest number of members in the Universal Negro Improvement Association, of which I am President General, are to be found in America and are native-born American. So he's saying that there's these individuals that are part of his organization that are actually native to here. They didn't come from Africa on the slave ship. These are the members that were in it. And who's he talking about? He's talking about all the people who were in the Harlem Jews, all those people, right, who knew that this is Israel over here, and Israelites were over here, and we have this, you know what I mean, connection to America that is just as strong as our connection to Africa. So we don't need to play flip-flop. We could be in America and say that we're Americans comfortably, right? I know these people so well, and I love them so well, that I could not for 1 minute think that they would fall for such an insidious propaganda. All intelligent people know that one's nationality has nothing to do with the great principle. Again, Garvey talking before being on the mentality of law, let's say, right? This is Garvey before he started using the tools in the workshop of the mind. Garvey when he had rough edges and stuff like that, and stuff's not sanded down, not using common sense, speaking from an emotional perspective in order to stir the people up, when really you're digging a deeper grave because the whole emotional roller coaster doesn't solve anything. It just stimulates feelings that, you know what I mean? You say, you know, no, I'm not a nigger, and then that makes you feel good. But, you know, you still got taxes that you pay, which is nigger stuff. You still got, and you're not complaining about those stuff. But, you know, lie on in the street, make a picket sign, march and whatever like that. We have this guy, he's going to go talk for us at the podium, and we're going to have a march where millions of us are going to go to this march, and we're going to stand there and that black power and all that. And then after that, just back to being nigger.
Back to the nigger industry.
Back to the nigger industry, lined up, right? Piper, just blowing his freaking shit. And people just follow it, right? Because I am a Jamaican, the Negro should not accept the principle of race, rights, and liberty, or the ideal of a free and independent race. Then you may well say that because Jesus was Nazarene and outside the world should not accept his doctrine of Christianity because he was a quote-unquote alien, foreigner. Right? Which is the same thing that he's saying that he is later on now. That he got naturalized, or that he's a foreigner. But then using the ridicule, relating himself and his ridicule to the prophets and what they got. When really and truly, Jesus was not Jesus. Jesus was Yahushua, who was an Israelite, who was a Nazarene, right? Who had hair like lamb's wool, skin like burnt brass, like was burnt in an oven. And his direct connection from a lineage perspective is through Ruth, who was a Moabitess.
Yes. And now, I don't mean to interrupt, it's not that the Albion, so-called what people think are white people, lie about that because they say in the Sunday Bible that his hair was like wool.
Right.
And his skin was like brass. And our people read it and still can't fucking still can't see. Still can't hear.
Or accept it.
Or accept.
Or believe it.
Now you tell me what's wrong with us. Or what's wrong with them.
Shadow of the mind.
Shadow of the mind.
Great mind control. They even lie to themselves.
The great ideals know no nationality. But because the Negro is not happy and will never be until he is restored to his own nationality. So even Garvey knew that nationality is the order of the day.
Right? The Garveyites.
Right? Even Garvey knew. Told on them Garveyites. In his pardon, that, you know, don't forget, that pardon became a letter to all the members of the UNIA. So all of them know about that. All of them been told that. But they're going to be out here pretending like Moors don't know what we're talking about or whatever. we're crazy because we have funny hats and we want to be pale Arabs and we want to be Europeans because Europeans brought the fez and Turks brought the fez and they came out of the cave though, but they brought the fez to somebody.
Yeah.
Well, they came out of the cave, but they taught somebody something, right? Fraud, all day, every day.
Just like the so-called Asiatic talking about, they wrote the books, but they don't know who taught them how to write the books.
We just woke up one day.
Yes.
Started right.
Yeah, just like that, right? Right.
Or the disregard in the sky.
No, that one.
Well, it's not easy when the woman lies to the child to try to tell them, I did not create you. There's a creator out there in the sky.
So you're gonna go online if you haven't yet, because I've seen this thing has about 8,000 views on it already, uploaded 2 days ago. Brother Polite, Red and Blue Pill.
With?
Yeah. And they're talking about black leaders and other stuff. Just talking about stuff, right? Now, there was a part that came up in there. I'm not sure where it is, but it's before an hour and 24 minutes, where the individual who's recording the thing, Brother Rich, he made a statement. Let's talk about definition, right? So, I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, finally, about to get into the stuff, And then he says, but not in a Moorish sense.
He said,
No way.
Let's talk about definition.
I gotta see that. I gotta see that.
One of these, Brother Rich, one of these guys recording the little sit downs and stuff like that, right? So they have, just black conscious mental wrestling guys, just doing their little talks or whatever.
It's commentative, not innovative.
Oh, he's saying we're not more?
No, they were doing this interview and the guy asked the question, but his statement before he asked the question was that they wanted to talk about definition, but not from a Moorish sense. Now this is conscious community people. People know their self and I see her.
oh, the curiosity. What does definition mean?
Oh, where's that big brown book at? Well, there it is. Let's see let's look at definition. What now? Let's put it out there. You know what I mean? Like what do you mean? Not from a Moorish sense. What is that? Like what is that? What do you mean by that? You know what I mean? I never wrote a dictionary. And the thing that got me is like, we know, we know the Moors, the Moors who talk like Moors that were there, right? Red and blue pill. They're Moors. They got Moorish shirts and stuff like that, Moorish heads on stuff. You know what I mean? And they didn't even. They asked, what do you mean by that? What do you mean not from a Moor? Like, we're Moors up here. So if you're saying you don't want to deal with things from a Moorish sense, like, are you talking about relative to your question that you just asked? So then we can go back to being Moors after your question? Or do you mean for the whole thing that we can't be Moors? Now, this is how I'm looking at. I'm looking like, it's a sanction against Moors. Because if you're not going to deal with definitions, but, you're going to deal with talking, which is words, which have definitions, but you don't want to deal with it from a Moorish sense, then why are we even sitting down and having a conversation about anything?
Exactly.
Right? Why are we even discussing anything? Right?
Because I think there are people reclaiming that they're Moors for the wrong reasons. And that's where we get and this is where we get the dirty Moors from, because they're doing it for, I guess, could be for the greed of now. Instead of looking at the big picture, Why go for crumbs when you got the whole cake that's really yours? Islam, sister.
Islam. There she is.
How you doing?
Yep, yeah. Oh. Sorry, just talk up a little more because the door is open.
Another angle to this could be sorcery.
Yeah.
By making that claim, we have this connecting from anything.
Right.
So
Yes.
therefore, anything that you then are listening to, you then are being told that doesn't apply to more.
Right.
Every time you hear more, you don't want to hear it.
You want to hear it.
Well, not even that, you just disconnect.
You disconnect from Morris. Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Because
that could have been some disclaimer that someone said, hey, say that,
yeah.
and then
In order to cause that disconnect. Yeah. Muddy the water.
Well, what the Grand Sheik is saying, if there's Moors around, that's actual from the heart of the
Moors.
It's supposed to say, what do you mean
Yeah.
by
What do you mean by that?
Like, what do you mean? Denounce the fact of the matter and pretend a game?
Right.
That's why I said, what does the word definition?
Right. You got.
All right, got it. Definition. A description of a thing by its properties, an explanation of the meaning of a word or term, Webster. The process of stating the exact meaning of a word by means of other words. Such a description of the thing defined, including all essential elements and excluding all non-essential as to distinguish it from all other things and classes.
So if we're not going to be dealing with things from a Moorish sense with regard to definitions, then that means we don't have to say Moorish. We can say black, and everything's all right. We don't have to say fiat. You can say money, and everything's cool because we're not talking from a Moorish sense. We're just talking. Sit down in the backyard, have two brewskis or whatever, just on the lawn chair, just having a conversation. We're not trying to teach nobody anything. We're just playing, come chill at the house. And take this. We're going to upload this to YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that Moors who know about their nationality and birthright bring to court these cases as Moors. Is going to sit there when someone says, don't talk from a Moorish perspective.
But what is the perspective
Right.
of, as I said, definition, a description of a thing by its properties, an explanation of the meaning of a word or term, Webster, the process of stating the exact meaning of a word.
Right?
So
And that's what I'm getting at. The exact
meaning of a word.
meaning of a word
How does
is a Moorish
Exactly.
And that would be the natural order.
That would be the order of don't call people black
Yeah.
throughout your whole thing, say Moors. Because that's what these people are.
Yes. The nature.
But if you play the game of not being their nature or having them be foreign to their birthrights and nationality, the natural order of who they are, then call them black, call them nigger,
Call them whatever.
call them whatever without qualification.
Yeah.
Because really that's what it's about too. Exact, right? Because we're actually using the dictionary, right, to qualify why we say what we say.
Yeah.
We're using the definitions from a Moorish sense so we can understand what words mean that we've been told, because we've been told some stuff that, have a nice day.
Yes.
I want to know why our day sucks.
Because it's really saying it was stupid foolishness.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm black.
Yeah.
When,
I'm dead.
you know what I mean? You're saying that you're dead when you're living, then somebody might kill you
Yes.
because you're not with the order.
Calling your children kids.
Right? Call your children kids.
Yeah.
When they're shopping at the you know what I mean? Right? Willingly go into the kids section. They even got the big sign, whatever, kids section. And people go there.
Yeah.
And want to know how come their children act like animals or whatever.
Yeah.
You just bought kid stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, go watch that. It's about 2 hours. I only could make it through an hour and a half.
I don't blame you.
No. That's that's the little barbecue backyard.
Oh, Garvey.
Sit down, smoke a, you know what I mean? Drink a juice and
Get it up.
just talk some, you know, stuff. You know? And then they got it like how they have the setup or whatever, right? They have this big black pyramid in the back, right? Big black pyramid, right? And then they got like the comfy couch, right? And then the heavyweight champion of the Mental Conscious Wrestling Association. He's on the big chair.
Oh, man.
He's on the big chair, right? And then they got stool right here. You know, then they got stool, and they got one of the brothers. You know, we got one more on this side. Then we got the stool. Then we got one more on this side.
Oh, that sounds like they're trying to go for fame.
Right?
Claim
This is
that.
how the setup was.
Yeah. What I mean by going for fame is everybody wants to be a YouTube famous person. You know, like the movies.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And the head guy, he's wearing a hat
Move on.
that says that on it. You know that?
Yeah.
Oh, the money team.
Mayweather.
Wow. So that's what he's after. Fiat team.
Fiat team. Fiat team.
But that's the game now.
That's what the stuff has become now. Nobody doing that for righteous teachers. The balling righteous teachers now. Balling righteous teachers, they got the
Tat on
limp,
the eye, man.
they got the limp and everything. Right? So the money team is now in the conscious or subconscious or whatever, right? Something's going on.
Who's sponsoring them?
They did their big ritual for that one. You know?
Well, it's not just them, man. I just went to the convenience store, man, and I'm paying for the water, and I see some music CDs with the Asiatic Moabite sister with her ass hanging out. And at first I thought it was a porn thing. I was like, geez, there's some porn videos in the convenience store now.
Mm-hmm.
But then she says music CDs. I've never really seen that in the other convenience store. But then I'm saying, I guess they're catering to the so-called black
So-called
people,
nigger industry.
The nigger industry. And she was Asiatic Oriental selling the stuff.
Right?
So they all want a piece of the nigger industry.
Right.
This is what they want in the convenience store. While little children come in there buying bubble gum and and candy and stuff,
Right.
jujubes, they got to look at some girl up there with her behind hanging out and stuff like that.
It's like mobile plantation.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I'm not saying, hey, art's not art, beauty's not beauty, but geez, the way you're selling it is on a whole different level.
That's the thing. When you're selling it, that's the issue.
Yeah.
So,
Once you're selling it,
But that was
once
just
you're
over here.
making some
Still
gain,
no
yeah.
different than what they're trying to sell.
Yeah. Same thing. Right?
And when they see
Exact same thing.
they see the console open, the temple open, they want to walk by because they don't want to be on the higher stuff and saying, I didn't know we were the richest wealthy. We came back to our senses. We can start controlling our own resources, our own minerals, our own land. We don't want that because we think the zookeeper has the plan, so we got to play the game. Like what you were saying with the right to travel and stuff like that. But if we woke up, that stops everything. All those.
Right.
We don't have to go to Oz and ask the wizard.
Right. So
We need your permission
permission for whatever.
for our
Right.
own shit.
It's our own stuff. And right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so the other thing that we want to address is hidden colors. Occult,
Unknown.
hidden. Right? Colors.
Just break those three words down for them before you get into it so they know.
And that's what coloring, right?
the Moorish.
So
Yeah, the Moorish.
Moorish.
Hidden, yeah, the more for more sense, we
For
got
more sense.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Hidden is a cult, right? Hidden is a cult. Colors is covering, or you can even say simulacrum, right? So hiding the occult. So they got their new thing coming out. The religion of white supremacy, Hidden Colors 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hidden Colors 4. The religion of white supremacy.
So,
He's getting help to push these out by he's getting funded to push these out.
first.
Right? Because the white supremacist psychopaths are not playing around with black people. Right? So keep in mind, Hidden Colors 4 they're at. The last time I heard Moors was Hidden Colors 1. That's the last time I heard Moors. From a serious perspective.
But no Moors were on it though.
Right? I think Sabir Bey got like 2 seconds or something. A minute?
I don't, you know what, I don't.
I can't remember.
I don't.
I know he was promoting it. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people in one, you know, connections happen. Yeah, that's right, the man or whatever. A live whatever that Tariq Nasheed, Hidden Colors guy had. And a guy asked a question because his statement was, you know, Barack Obama is going to be out of office soon. Implying, you know, who's our black president? No,
It's all over.
what we're going to do, right?
All black people have been in a recession since the beginning of time. Should they watch your nationality? They've been in a recession.
Right? Remember, we already talked about Garvey, already talked about nationality, right? So Garvey talked about nationality. Okay? LI talk about nationality, human rights, and all that stuff, right? Martin came out before he died, started talking about mountaintops and constitutional stuff and all that.
Before he got hurt.
Yeah, right?
Khalid.
Yeah. Khalid came out, said he's a Moor, he got sense enough, no, he's a Moor. You know, he's not Kunta Kente and all that type of stuff, he's Asiatic and all that, right? Broke it all down. All these are the heads of the so-called conscious community groups or whatever. These are the head people who everybody, if there's a lecture of them, they're going to.
Wait, don't forget we have a picture with Jesse with the fez on.
Oh, yeah. Jesse.
Oh,
Jesse was
really?
down with the Nuwapians. Right.
Yeah, I
Jesse was down with the Nuwapians. Right? So all these individuals know about nationality, birthrights, etc. So this brother asked the crowd asked the question, what are the 3 things on the political agenda for people? Right? What are the 3 things? And then, you know, because, you know, the Hidden Colors is so big, you know what I mean? The guy said, no, I got 4 stuff that I'm going to tell you. You know, because you got some stuff to do or whatever. So first thing that black people, melanoid people need. Tariq Nasheed's perspective. Sovereign land. Right, why? The reason though why they need sovereign land, though, right? They need sovereign land because since we live in a white supremacy system, right? Nowhere is safe. So we need sovereign land. We need our own land where black people can go to because, you know, as black people, you know, we've been under so much whatever by everybody else. We should have our own go to, just like everybody else has their own. You know, China got their Chinatown, Turkey got their whatever. Okay, we need a black whatever, right? You just get sovereign in there. You want people to realize and recognize and accept the fact that as soon as you have somebody who's a leader of yours and they start speaking about black anything, they work for the other side. Like automatically they work for the other side, right? It might be indirectly, or they might have straight took a check in the hand that they know that they took the check, put it in their pocket, and they're going out here to teach black. Getting funded. Whether way, as soon as they talk about black people, melanoid people, ancient black and stuff like that, you already know that these people don't know what they're talking about, or they know what they're talking about and they're playing. And that's their job to do that. Right? Again, it might not be direct. It might not be that they took a check. They might have been taught by the individual who took a check.
But they want to get the check.
They would love a check.
That's why they're talking that,
right?
so they can get the check.
So they can keep getting their
If
little,
they didn't get a check.
Right?
They want their lunch money.
They want their lunch money.
But they don't know that the richer than they could ever imagine. By just saying, I don't want your lunch money. I want what's rightfully ours. I'm coming back home and claim my true identity because inheritance cannot be sold or bought. And I'm tired of you guys playing your game. I want mine.
Playing the game.
I want
Sovereign.
mine.
Well, sovereign.
Yeah. Sovereign first.
Person, body, or state with independent and supreme authority invested. A chief ruler with supreme power. A king or ruler with limited power. English law, a gold coin of Great Britain of value of £1 sterling. We have sovereignty, the supreme, absolute, and uncontrollable power by which any independent state is governed. Supreme political authority, paramount control of the Constitution and the frame of and its administration. The self-sufficient source of political power from which all specific political powers are derived. The international independence of a state combined with the right of power of regulating its internal affairs without foreign dictation. Also, political society or state which is sovereign and independent. This Moorish case law, that it says the power to do everything in the state without accountability, to make laws, to execute, to apply them, to impose and collect taxes and levy contributions, to make war or peace, to form treaties of alliance or of commerce with foreign nations and the like. Then a couple of case laws that says sovereignty in government is the public authority which directs or orders what is to be done to each member associated in relation to the end of the association. It is the supreme power by which any citizen is governed and is the person or body of persons in the state to whom there is no political superior. The necessary existence of a state and the right and power which necessarily follow is sovereignty. By sovereignty in the largest sense, is meant supreme, absolute, uncontrollable power, the absolute right to govern, the word which by itself comes nearest to the definition of sovereignty. It will or limitation as applied to political affairs.
Now also too look up more. So the sovereign person, body, or state. Supreme, absolute authority, self-sufficient, no foreign dictation.
That means they have no authority over sovereign.
Right. A sovereign is an authority of its own. So if you're making a statement that you're going to campaign for sovereign land, that's an oxymoron. Because you can't ask for sovereign land.
When you're sovereign, because if you're asking,
then obviously you're not the sovereign.
You're under a dictatorship.
Right? Which if you're
No.
sovereign, there's no foreign dictation.
Yes.
But then if you're asking for campaigning or picketing or marching or whatever like that for sovereignty, then you're admitting that there's foreign dictatorship. And that you're down with it, not that you're against it.
Yeah.
You're actually down with it because you're going to those people who you know are dictating in order to get them to give you a piece.
Bob Black Sheep had me in the roll. Yes, sir. 3 bags full. 1 for my master. You know how it goes.
I forgot that.
But I
That's out of my mind.
You got mortar?
I couldn't help.
Out of sight, out of
Right,
mind.
so
I did.
sovereign land. Again, just to stress the point, no such thing. It's a catch-22. It's an oxymoron. You cannot have sovereign land that was given to you. You can't have that, right? If you're the sovereign. If you're the sovereign, then you have the land, and then, you know, you do what you got to do on the land, because you're sovereign, right? More. An officer in the Isle of Man who summons the courts for several sheddings. The officer is similar to an English bailiff of 100. That's the only one? That's the only one there? Moorish. Yeah, read the other more stuff. If it's M-O-O-R, let's read whatever it is. So after M-O-O-R, it's M-O-O-R. Moorish. A sum due by law or uses for warning or fasting of treaty or souls at the shore or raft. And then there was mooring also. Mooring. Maritime law, entering or making fast to the shore or dock, securing or confining of a vessel as by cables and engines, or by a line or chain run to a raft. All right. So now, what we want to show was that if you go to Unabridged, go to Unabridged, they tell you that more also means land.
Or you could look up land and you bring up.
Yeah, see what land is. Right? So if sovereign land is more, land is more. It's identified as more. More is land. Sovereign land is really a sovereign more. And what the discussion really should be about is, in order to end white supremacy, correct your status. Get yourself into the status of being a sovereign more. And white supremacy end tomorrow. Because now the white supremacists who have a bullseye on black and anything black, now have no.
Because then they have to start being themselves once we start being
Right,
ourselves.
because black really is pale. When they start talking about black peoples and whatever, and then you realize that they lost whatever it is they were asking for. Black people want whatever, and then you realize they don't get it. And because they're running a fraud by calling themselves something that they're not. Because black really means pale. And clearly our people are pale people. So they shouldn't be identifying themselves as this. Or any derivatives of this.
Because what even makes it even more than black is like when you say you're a black sovereign. I mean, that kills it right at the door.
But then they like what she said.
Yeah.
Oxymorons, if they're sitting back laughing at them saying, no, they didn't say that. Black
They're black
scoffers.
scoffers.
We know who they are, but they don't know who they are.
They don't know who they are.
But we don't want them to wake up, because if they wake up, then we have to be ourselves.
Right.
If they start being themselves, we got to start being ourselves. So,
Yeah.
Sincere. I'll just read, it's a long definition. I'll read it to you. It says, land, in the most general sense, comprehends any soil or earth whatsoever, as fields, meadows, pastures, woods, moors, waters, and marshes.
that's why they're controlling our resources. Right. That's the real wealth. Then we made up some fiat, what people think is money. And we're going after this little bit of cheese, track, when they're controlling our metals, what else? Our water, our pastures, soils, minerals. And that's why the big thing is about gold and silver, water. Now they're selling us water. They're selling us, they sell the air to us. But they can't.
But they already do.
They
already do.
You're selling that here.
AC, yo, AC.
I tell them.
AC.
I don't pay for air.
They're selling.
Turn on that pump. Yes, exactly.
They're selling.
But now people don't know really is the Spirit. That's why they call it the Holy Breath, the Holy Spirit. If we stop breathing that, we're gone.
Right.
But they want to make it look like,
and then just to add on, because spirit really means breath.
yes. Not no spooky shit.
You want something, you get goosebumps, or the spirit passed through, or whatever like that. Right? Second thing, we, meaning black people, right? This is black guy talking. We,
I know we're cracking you up. People getting off me. Right? We're in a cake. Boy, they're really fucking up a lot of people. Niggers. White power. Go ahead, finish up.
we shouldn't pay taxes, right? We shouldn't pay taxes because services our taxes go to fund the same law enforcement that's killing us. Right?
Say that again.
Taxes equals money for extermination.
They got us lined up to pay.
Okay? We shouldn't pay taxes. So this is another one that we got as usual, right? Now, we as Moors, we don't pay taxes because we don't have an obligation to it, because taxes are corporate activity. Right? Taxes are corporate activity. And being that we're not corporations, we don't have any tie to taxes. So this is already knocked out the box. Just proclaim your nationality and you won't pay taxes. You don't have to campaign to the European to not tax you. You don't have to do anything but present yourself in your proper status so taxes don't apply to you. Only Negroes, black people talk in this form. Now remember, we're talking about the founder of Hidden Colors, who in Hidden Colors admitted that more means black. So if you're saying if more means black, then why not just call yourself Moors instead of black? Because more means black. So just call yourself Moors. Because nobody else goes around calling things by its definition. Right? If more means black, right? If a word has a definition, you don't call yourself the definition. You call yourself the word. So black is the definition. So there's no need to call ourselves black. Just say Moors. And put it from that perspective that you cannot have any success. You're only going to have failure if you identify yourself or classify yourself as property of somebody else. That's the only way. If you realize that you're not black and you're Moor, then saying that you're Moor means that those people who you've been dealing with are immediately going to not want to deal with you. Which means, no, you're not going to get your welfare check in your Moorish name, sorry. You're not going to get your little handout crap, whatever that European has for you or whatever like that in your Moorish name. It's not going down. Because you're engaging the European or quote-unquote white supremacy is under a compromise because it's occupation. So you don't want to be, if you don't want to have your free national name, dealing with them on that level. You don't want to deal with them on that level because you're still dealing with something that's corporate. But now you have your actual natural being engaged in this corporate thing now. Instead of putting the corporate thing on a leash and throwing it out, let the corporate and the corporate engage each other. You know what I mean? You're not gonna hold the chicken and put your hand in the water for the piranhas to eat. You're gonna either throw it in or you put it on something.
Yes.
So as soon as you put your natural self into that arena, you're allowing possible injury. And it's going to be real injury because they're not dealing with a fake. They're dealing with actual real flesh and blood. Right? Sis.
That when you have 1,000 people and the mind is thinking that it can't take 1,000, right? They never even let us the literature to know. Because what is it like? There's a gentleman, he's helping people when they get laid off. But when they call the government to tell them that they get laid off, they're not telling them that they're entitled to 6 months of severance, right? You only tell them 2 weeks. And this is a lawyer telling people, warning the people, this is not the government, but warning everybody that when you call the board, like when you get laid off, the layoff board, right? Yeah. They're not telling the people the truth because they work for the corporation. So that is why it always said, teach what, teach what. So the fact that we now know that we're more, and it's what they're saying, sovereign, they're not going to want to give up what they have. Because remember, we have to fight with wisdom. Because when I see this guy telling everybody what the government don't even want us to know when we get laid off, that they're entitled to 6 months. Don't tell me.
But he's not telling you that a lawyer is a spy, though.
No, I
He's not going to tell you that.
Exactly.
And he's not going to tell you that, by people talking to him. He's a spy for the courts.
No, but he tells people to tell them.
No, but he's a spy.
Even if he's a spy, he's still exposed to what they're doing.
Yeah, but they're really supposed to be not even having to do that.
That is true, but that is what I'm saying.
Because the corporation that let those people go have an obligation to pay them severance.
Exactly.
Full severance.
That's what I'm saying.
They have an obligation to do that.
Exactly.
So how come the lawyer's not going at those guys who are holding out on people's stuff? He's telling them the secrets of how to get 6 months instead of 2 months.
No, instead of 2 weeks.
Instead of 2 weeks, you get 6 months or whatever.
Yeah.
How come he's not going to the corporation that are giving these people 2 weeks?
No, he's going to the corporation and fighting them for people like they can get laid off. That's what I'm saying.
But he's not doing that pro bono. He's getting paid to do that.
And the fact is, oh, you're going to know yet. But I'm trying to say in the sense that it's done because of where we're at as a people. people. They're not just gonna want to give up what's right for the hour.
No, but the thing that we're getting at is that as Moors,
Yeah.
we're not in that same jurisdiction,
I agree with you.
right? We're not dealing with the things that the so-called Negroes are dealing with, right?
But when I'm talking about a Moors who have our stuff, they're not gonna even give it up.
No, but they're not going to give it up because they're always dealing with Negroes.
But
They're
we're
never.
talking about those Negroes, though. We're talking about this.
No, but they're not going to give it up to us because there's Negroes out there. No, we have to worry about the Negroes because that's the reason why they're not giving it up to us. It's like this. It's like we go out here and you, let's say you have the right to travel, right? So when you're out here, you don't show a license or whatever like that. You don't do anything of that nature. You exercise as a Moor, right? So you have no insurance, for example. You give him your paperwork. He says, "Oh, okay, well you're a Moor. I don't have jurisdiction over you. Here's the paperwork. Bye." He just lost. He's minus 5,000 right now.
Exactly.
Because that's a guaranteed ticket that he's supposed to get.
No, you don't want me now to go get one more to come to the realization that you don't need.
Right. So what he's gonna do is gonna use you as an example to make them not be Moors.
That's right. Exactly the question. Just to not come to the realization that
Make it a move.
each one.
Peace, Moor.
Yes.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Yeah.
Barry, yes. Yeah, I'll see you guys again. Absolutely. Do your thing, man. Do your thing.
So I'm not going
White power.
white power. We're not against where you're going, the perspective. Yeah, the people should get there 6 months or whatever like that, right? But if their status is not corrected, 6 months, 2 months, don't do nothing. Because the European's going to get it anyways. So they put it in their account, that's his name. Yeah, it's gonna take time, but remember, we're not in the business of we need, line going around the corner like the cheesecake spot where yesterday got the pylons and stuff like that, right?
That the government, because that's what I remember my brother watching out. The government is set up for the Moors and out there that people know that they need to call in and come into the consciousness of what you're doing because people are waking up. Because it's gonna take what I think is life, just like if I born and the person will tell me eat the food now. And you know what I think how it is? We got some birds and the birds we saw them hatch. And my daughter, she fed them till now they're big, right? But they still need to fly. And the mommy, you can't give them certain things yet still, although you think they're big. That still takes their time till they reach stages. So I believe we're coming into the stages of what I think with us now, we have to be ready to fight. That's what I think. We have to be ready within ourselves now for the war.
No, the war's been going on.
Because they're not just gonna want to give up.
But we don't need them to just give up. Because, I mean, like, they're not going nowhere.
That's right, but no,
They're
gonna have to run their nose out.
They got created by us. Where are they going without us? They're not going nowhere.
Exactly.
When they going to go to Europe, they got to deal with Moors there. So Moors are waking up in Europe.
Exactly.
So they can't go nowhere. Anywhere they go, they're going to be where Moors are at.
That's right.
So what we have to recognize is just like when they initially came over here, right? And they set up shop. Just like how they're doing to the Chinaman and whoever else that comes here. And they give them a little section or whatever, and there's their section, and you guys stay in their section. And that's just what it is. Right? We don't need them to get up, pack up their stuff, and go somewhere and all that type of stuff because they're not going.
But they're gonna go $60.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? They're not going nowhere. They're gonna be here. Right? They're gonna be here.
They're going $60 for the fighters for what we got now.
They're only gonna fight the Negroes. They don't fight more.
We don't call the word anymore.
They
They're
don't,
more.
they don't fight. They don't fight more.
Exactly. So they're gonna-
Yeah, but there's only few people. That's why I talked about this thing. That the brother's gonna the brother who's supposed to be conscious, he's gonna come out and say with certain things, but not from a Moorish perspective. When you can't do that. Right? It's not even paid under the table. They're about getting views on their little YouTube whatever. They're not about helping the people. That's just like Morris saying, we're gonna charge you $60 for legal services. And everybody's like, oh, that's a good price. Let's go to this guy. Yeah, but he just said legal. Legal is not lawful. That's two different jurisdictions. And that's a Moor that just said legal. And he's charging for it.
They're good more than bad Moors.
We know that. But we want people to stop following the bad Moors because that's why they're getting themselves caught up in stuff.
That's true.
They keep chasing after the Moors who are looking at this from some opportunistic perspective. When that's not what this is. We have to focus on them because that's the reason why we're so backlogged right now. We're not backlogged because we're not backlogged because the Europeans not doing nothing. Like we showed y'all. We go to stores and we bring people proof to show that we don't pay taxes. It's not no issue. You put on nationality card, you don't pay taxes. Simple. That's what it is. You want to not pay taxes? Proclaim your nationality. It's that simple. It's easy as that. There's nothing else. Right? See, but that's what I'm talking
You know
about.
what I'm saying? He had to fight. So some of them will
But-
give and some will still want to fight the war.
But regardless of whether they give, it's about perspective.
That is true.
And if I go to somewhere
Yeah.
and I put down my nationality card and I have stuff on the counter and they say, sorry, we don't take that here,
Yeah.
I'm leaving.
But
I'm
that's-
not going to them. What am I going to them for?
but that's-
They don't honor nothing. But that's what everybody should be doing. Why are you fighting them? Why are you going to fight somebody
And that's why I
who's
agree
not
with what you're
who's
saying.
not going to go with the program? Why are you fight? They're still not going to go with the program if you fight them.
Exactly.
How about go find somebody else who's down with the program and just use them and don't support the people who don't. And that's the issue. Moors want to be, you know what I mean, on the black side sometimes to deal with the black people because, you know, you got to reach them where they're at, so we're going to go on their side of the fence. So that ain't what this is. This is lift people out their grave, not jump in their grave with them. This is get people and raise them up. This is not, I'm going to raise you up, but, you know, I see you 10 sticking out your pocket, let me get that.
That's the thing.
But it's only Moors who people are, you know, 8,000 views, and that's who they're following, and that's who they want to emulate and all that stuff. That's who they want to learn from. That's why Drew Ali made the statement, there's only going to be a handful saved. There's only going to be a handful saved. We're worried about the handful. That's what we're going with. And making sure that the handful doesn't get caught up in these people over here that are doing all this craziness, trying to get them distracted from the fact that all this stuff is free. Somebody asked a question about what's the 3 things that you know black people need to do or whatever, and you're starting to talk about sovereign land and taxes, and you never talk about nationality, change your status.
Change nationality.
Thank you.
That's it.
Proclaim your nationality, all the stuff that you want is going to come with it.
You only need one step.
Right? One step. Okay? Right? They also called about that they want reparations. Reparations has to be put back on the table. Why do you put reparations back on the table? It was obviously taken off the table because the plate's empty. Why are you bringing the empty plate back? Hidden Colors director guy, Tariq Nasheed. The guy who directed Hidden Colors. You know Hidden Colors? So Hidden Colors. The guy who started up Hidden Colors, that's what they want for black people.
Okay. Well, you know, they always say they want that for us because they don't want us to leave us, but it's too late. We're waking up now. So,
No, but those are the individuals preventing people from waking up. Right? Those are the people that's preventing people from waking up.
okay.
People are supposed to be woke already. Right? People are supposed to be woke already. This is not something that we're just supposed to be dealing with right now. This is something that's supposed to be dealt with a long time ago. So why are we still dealing with the fact that people don't have a nationality?
But remember, that when we first came, this knowledge has been entered the year and you came into the knowledge.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And but you see, things
No, but it's not about it takes time. It's about people who have this information and they're not talking about it.
It's
Because
hard
they
to-
wanna-
It's kind of hard to say that it takes time if people really know about it. You know what I mean? Like,
Right? Like we said, like we said, right? We brought up Marcus Garvey, who was around the time of Noble Drew Ali. There's people who say that they're Garveyites today, 2015. And they never read that thing that we read that Marcus Garvey said that the only way the Negro is going to be happy is when he finds his nationality. Marcus Garvey said that. No, he said when they have a nationality. We're not talking about, that's before he was put onto the
You
science.
might have to read it again because she wasn't here when you read that.
Oh, you weren't here.
Yeah.
Yeah, read
They
that
were
again.
back, that was before they got back on the science.
Oh, yeah?
Gotta read that.
No, I agree with what you said, but the other those who are ready and move forward.
No, we're moving forward with the ones that are ready.
Yeah.
We're not even looking, we're not even really and truly, we really don't care about people who aren't down with us. We don't care. We're moving forward. But when there's individuals that are speaking from a perspective that they know what they're talking about, that these people who are complaining about stuff that they don't have or whatever like that, right? And they know what it is that they need and they're not telling. Like we said, the guy said in Hidden Colors that more means black. So we're going with that. Okay, more means black. All right. Okay. Book means something you read. Get information from whatever. You don't call that, hey, could you pass me that thing to read there on the shelf? You call it a book. Because that's the word, not the definition. So if more means black, then everybody who says that they're black should call themselves Moors. That's just what it is. But if the individuals who are talking like that aren't putting it to them in that perspective, because these people are so, like you're saying, they're not ready and they're not in the right frame of mind so they can get this and whatever. Yeah, but they're that way because they're listening to these individuals who've been playing them for the past 100 years.
That you're doing good much quicker because you're doing every one and that one for each one and that one each one, and before you know it's like billions of it.
Right? Because the Negro is not happy and will never be until he is restored to his own nationality. And my ability to continue my work in this behalf will bless the nation. For as Thomas Paine said, no man can be happy surrounded by those whose happiness he has destroyed. So the only way that we're going to be happy is when we are restored, and he just didn't say nationality, to our own nationality. Only one individual told us about our own nationality. Nobody else told us about our own nationality.
I see you on YouTube now and you're going to do the job. So this way you're going to counteract and then you to that out here. I really want you to counteract.
Yeah, but it's the same thing like with you know, one individual out here with plates. And then there's all these Negroes out here that don't got plates and they're paying tickets and all this type of stuff that they shouldn't really be paying. Giving them a ticket is a foreigner, and if he's a foreigner, where do you get jurisdiction to give them a ticket? If he's a foreigner. And it's a fact that he's a foreigner. It's not even an assumption. Just like taxes. It's a fact that the individuals who charge us taxes are the so-called government, whatever, corporations. Most of those are headed by a European. How come they don't have IRS in China, taxing Chinese people? How come? Right? So as soon as you sit down, you become a victim of the abuse. So instead of complaining about the abuse, how about stand up? And the people, like we said, the people are not going to stand up once there's these shysters out here that are playing people, getting people to go fill out papers, send packages all over the place, pay for stuff that's free, right? Try to do things in a dead status, knowing that you can't get anywhere using a dead status. Knowing that as soon as you say black, you just cancel out your political power. You just cancel out your sovereignty. You just cancel out, you know, it's like, you know, they're going to talk about, you know, our people are in the state that they're in because they don't have a code of conduct. Well, you guys are from chematology or whatever. Ma'at, 42 codes of Ma'at is code of conduct. Like, what are you talking about? You got a code of conduct. How could they make a statement like, you know, national standards, having a flag? That's code of conduct. How much of these so-called people who are in whatever group have a flag that you can go in the world and put the flag up and say, what flag is this? And somebody tell you. Everybody knows what this flag is. It's not a secret. Ask anybody in the world, hold this up. What flag is this? Oh yeah, that's Morocco. And they might not even know it. They might say Maghreb. They might say something you don't even know what they're talking about. Because of how diverse this flag is. As far as amongst Asiatics, because of, you know, red. Because of a star. Not just any star, 5-point star. That some people just have solid, some people have interlocking, some people have, and they do all types of different things with it, but it's the same 5-point star that everybody knows represents Venus. And that's a fact that everybody knows. And then you have these individuals that say that they're black people, then they want, well, where's you guys' flag? If you're black, where's your flag? It's not that they don't have no flag. They need to proclaim their nationality so they can tie themselves being sovereign, being part of a nation, which is what they want. But as soon as we say, you know, as soon as somebody comes out on an 8,000 view video in 2 days, right? As soon as the individual who put up that video comes out and says, let's deal with things, but not from a Moorish perspective. All those 8,000 people right there immediately eliminate Moors from their mind, eliminate anything that a Moor says, a Moor is gonna say, and they stick to that jurisdiction that put them, they think they're getting put onto some information.
So I would you know, now thank you for did you come to Rocket?
No, we're live right now. That's why we're talking how I'm talking. Right? Because right? That's why we don't say that we're live. So people can say what they gotta say. Because majority of people don't say what they gotta say. You have what were we looking up there?
Reparation.
Oh yeah, reparation.
Reparation. Redress of an injury. Amends for wrong inflicted.
The redress of an injury. So they say that they want reparation. Right? They want reparation. redress redress, right? Now, if the injury that you're seeking redress for is voluntary, should you get reparations? There's a question out there. If the redress, if you're claiming that you need to get something because you were violated, if being violated was based on voluntary action, should that individual be compensated? No claim, because you caused it on yourself. Injury, an injury. Yeah. Yeah. So, right? Redress for an injury. The injury that our people are complaining about that they need reparations for is a voluntary injury. It's not involuntary. Right? Slavery was voluntary because they didn't have to drink from the black fountain. They could have went down to the river right there and got a drink if they wanted to drink. They didn't have to. They didn't have to identify themselves as black because there were people who looked just like them that were indigenous here that weren't calling themselves black. Right? The land that they came from had a name. Then you come over here, and why you call yourself that we used to call yourself over there? Why all of a sudden now you're a slave? You came over here. Why you just call yourself the same stuff that you called from when you were over there? It's no different than thing going on with Haiti and Dominica right now. Everybody's Haitians and Dominicans and blaming everybody calling each other, saying this and that to each other, blah blah. When you go check the Dominican record is singing that the national anthem is speaking to Haitians. The national anthem of Dominican Republic, when you translate it into English, is singing about Haitians. Right? And that's because Dominica is really Haiti. And that fraudulent line that they put and then say that this is Dominican Republic comes from Dominico and the whole colonization crap. When that whole place is called Haiti. And there is no separation or whatever like that. To say that, they should be against each other. It's no different than Rwanda genocide crap. These guys saying they're different, the line right there. Well, the guys on this side of the line are one tribe, and the guys on are another tribe, and now they're fighting.
So the language thing became colonization is about the language. One is Spanish.
Right. Right. On the same jurisdiction. There's a French side and a Spanish side. And then they're fighting under the guys that, those guys are Spanish and those guys are French, but all of them are dark-skinned people.
Which is what they do a lot in the Caribbean.
Right? So play that, right.
Right. Same way on the French side.
Yeah, labor and jail teams to fight each other.
Right? Same thing, right?
Yeah.
Political, whatever, right? Okay. When the real issue is what's people's mindset? Right? What's people's mindset? They got all these so-called leaders of Haiti fighting revolutions, all that stuff like that, and to nothing. You just let those people, no different than Garvey talking about, you want to be happy, live in nationality. And nobody's not talking about that. Nobody's not talking about anything else. All they're talking about is these Spanish and French, whatever, that had, that people were picking sides of which one they're going to follow or whatever. They're not going back to the original Tainos and Arawaks or whatever like that were in that land that called the whole thing Haiti.
They talk about Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, they're going to talk about him. They're going to talk about him. That's their master. And both of them are going to bring him up in their history. But they're not going to bring up the Tainos, though. They're not going to bring up that, the Dominican, the national anthem, right, for Dominican Republic, when you translate it, is for Haitians. Why is it not for Dominican Republicans? We're not talking about the Haitian national anthem. We're talking about the Dominican national anthem. When it translates, is dealing with Haitians. So what's Dominicans fighting for? Why are they killing Haitians when their national anthem says Haitians? That they're Haitians. But you start talking about that, and conspiracy and no way, when that's what it is. People not using their common sense. That's why everybody's suffering. They don't need common sense. People are stupid. And they're being stupid people. Browns call themselves black. I want to know why nobody respects them. And when Moors say it and they think that we're attacking something or whatever, when, you're calling yourself something you're not. And want to be respected. Right? Find anybody out there who calls themselves professional, whatever. Please, man. Right? Find somebody who call themselves professional, whatever that they say they are professional in. And they can't do that job if they're going to get any calls after that. Not going to be looked at as honorable. We're going to disown that. We're not going to pay that any attention. Now, we want people to start thinking. Because once thinking stops, when the thinking stops, thinking for yourself, that's when you start getting abused. Because everybody has a right to use the faculties and their 5 senses. You have a right to do that. You have a right to see something wrong and say, hey, yo, you shouldn't be doing that or whatever. You're not going to let that fly just because, oh, I don't know, I can't really talk about that because, if I talk about that, that means, I'm not going to get my check or whatever. Well, it's compromise. Living as a compromise, you might as well be in jail or whatever. If you're going to live as a slave, you might as well stand up for what's right. Because living as a slave is worse than standing up. Being content in the position that we're people of color. And then more say, well, look up color in the law dictionary. No, I don't want to do that because, that's a white man's stuff or whatever. Yeah, but, what do you want? The white man came out the cave and he made dictionaries and stuff like that. Like, which one is it? Like, which one is it? You can't be a founder of civilization and came out of a cave and didn't have any language, didn't have any culture, didn't know how to shower and all that type of stuff. The Moors, not the Africans or the ancient Egyptians or the whatever. Until they met the Moors, they didn't know anything about civilization. Not anybody else that the black people say are the ancient people, the Moors. That's what's documented in the history books. Even European history books, Asian history books, East Indian history books, whatever. Everybody knows that those so-called people who they say are Europeans or whatever, they learn from the Moors. Everything that they know. Nothing that they didn't know from us. As Moors. Not as Africans or whatever else that we decide to call it. That includes the language. So they can't even claim that as they originated it. Because they'll tell you that we never spoke English. That's not our language. We grunt and stuff like that. All those Neanderthal movies or whatever that they come out with, tell me those guys have a language. Documentaries or whatever. So again, the reason why we present how we present stuff, right? Because, right? You got this question.
We're live now.
Yeah. Right now. Oh no, it's not happening.
You were already out there.
Yeah. You've been on how much weeks ago we've been recording or whatever like that. You've been here. No.
There's no agents here, man.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, what's the proper steps I need to go through in order to get back into my proper steps? I keep running into dirty moors. I just need some honesty and truth. I really hope you can help me out. So this comes back to that same thing that we were talking about in the beginning, where you have, individuals like this brother, right? Coming into consciousness. If you come into consciousness and individual you go to says 1,500 for some papers or whatever, you're like, well, 1,500 is a little steep, but to my status, I mean, saying that it works, he has video, you know what I mean? He's showing himself in it, I guess, it works or whatever. And then he put down 1,500, get some papers, now you think that you're free. When nationality can't be bought or sold, so you just killed your own paperwork, you just killed by even paying for it. You just dead that paperwork.
So invalidated it right there?
Right there.
Okay.
It becomes invalid.
Okay.
It has no power of what it stated because it wasn't presented or given in the proper fashion. Because if these individuals tell people that correcting your status really has to do with thinking, not papers and cards or whatever, then everybody who's saying 1,500, 500, or whatever like that, they go out of business tomorrow because everybody realized, I just get myself some law dictionaries and I just start studying, change my mentality, and that's the first step to being free, is knowing what freedom is. Not, that guy's free, I'll just do what that guy did. That's enslavement. Right? Even Duali told them more. Nationality is free, not just here, but all over the world. Giving people the code that, dual citizenship. Even if you don't want to proclaim you're more, find some other nation. Go join them. At least tie yourself to a nation. Something that has a flag, that has a culture, that has whatever like that, whatever. Just tie yourself to something. Because national, but they're not going to do that. Because they have in their mind, based on these individuals that are doing this opportunistic perspective of teaching people about what their birthrights are, they get intimidated. Because, 1,500 for some papers, but, the presentation is free, like police can't bother me or whatever like that, no taxes and stuff like that.
Scams.
Like, I might put down that 1,500. Like, I just might do that. But then you put down 1,500 and then you talk to some other more over there and they're like, no, I only paid 5 or whatever. Like, so now they're feeling, whatever. Now they got to, okay, well, how do I dissolve this, which is already dissolved because they paid for it.
Yeah.
But, they weren't taught that perspective. So now they got this paper. Now they're feeling bad. Oh, I can't believe I wasted it. Now they go to this 500 guy. Then they find another guy who, just like now, I've been bumping into dirty more, so I figured I might as well ask you or whatever, see what you say. And then we're telling him, it's free, just go study. rvbaypublications.com, you know what I mean? Just go on there, stay there for a year, you'll know what your nationality is. Guaranteed. Then after you get the process, or you change the frequency, change the vibration, starting with your mindset, then you go get papers, cards, or whatever like that, because you have the knowledge to know that as soon as you go to somebody else, brother, you know, I see that you guys have a Moorish science temple here, proclaim my nationality, and then they give you like the looks, you know, where are you coming from, man? What temple do you come from, man? Who told you come here and stuff like that? You already know these guys are on some Robbie. Or even take it personal, go to the next individual. Because you have a different, you know what to look for. Opposed to not knowing what to look for and just following anything because it sounds like that's what Moorish nationality correcting their status is. But it's really a learning, it's a adopting a new mindset through reading the correct information. But we haven't been reading the correct information. That's why we have a warped mentality right now. Say that we're black when we're brown and stuff like that. We clearly see that we're not black. You call yourself black still? You have mental problems. You need to go down to get psychological assessments and stuff like that. Right? You can. But you know, oh, you're studying some law over there. Right?
Aware of that.
Said it.
And that's why he put it down.
They were doing it back then. They were doing it back then. It might not have been on the level that we see it today. You know what I mean? But you know, telling somebody, because remember that you know you would have to pay dues if you become a member, right? Which is still, you know, you putting finance in. But if you're putting finance into somebody who, you know, they know that there's no such thing as reincarnating prophets and stuff, and then they say they're the reincarnated, you know, because Noble Jolly came again through our leader, who's, you know, a leader now. Now, if people are going to follow him, they're going to play too. Because, you know, born. Right? So, the key, and you know, people, our people like stuff tomorrow, and this is not some tomorrow, whatever. I mean, this is like some doctorate, you know what I mean? Your 8-year, 10-year schooling before you even get to look at the stuff you're going to be in operation. I haven't shown you no scalpels and stuff like that yet. Because you're going to injure yourself. Right? You know, and in the meantime of finding out about what your status is, you're going to be learning to live within these contracts that we've gotten ourselves into because of our warped mindset. That we just sign stuff just because somebody said, oh yeah, sign here. Oh, sure, no problem.
All rights reserved.
Oh, hey. All right, say that again, louder.
You're going to sign a contract, and before you read it, you put all rights reserved, and then you put your signature.
Right, so if you,
Or autograph.
if you're, you know, somebody and you saw, you know, Hidden Colors and you say, oh wow, that was so amazing, like my life has changed because I saw Hidden Colors. Know that after you seen Hidden Colors, this is how you're supposed to sign anything that you get involved in, as far as somebody asking for your signature. Don't worry about why, how come, and all that stuff. Just know, on the line, write all rights reserved, and then sign whatever signature it is over that, and then do your research from there. Because Hidden Colors is a drop in the bucket. Hidden Colors is a drop in the ocean. Hidden Colors 2 is 2 drops in the ocean. Hidden Colors 3 is 3 drops in the ocean. Hidden Colors 4 is going to be 4 drops in the ocean.
And that's for all the 5 billion more out there.
Right? So all rights reserved has to be on the line, written on the line, or stamped on the line before signing. If you see hidden colors 1, 2, 3, or 4, from this stage on, you better reserve your rights on stuff. Because if you don't reserve your rights on stuff, then you're never going to get to the level of Moorish nationality. Because by reserving your rights on the contract, you are actually ending the hex that they have on you. You are actually going to the witch doctor, whatever, to go get that special drink, whatever like that. So you get a drink, and then now you have a super strength to go do whatever it is that you want to do out there.
So if you're contracted with your Moorish or free national navy,
Yeah, you still reserve your right.
you still reserve your
Yeah.
if you're agreed to okay, so
Yeah.
you still reserve with the free national
Yeah,
navy.
yeah.
So does it make a difference if you have the UCC one dash?
Yeah, no, that's, we have that too. UTC 1-103, UCC 07.
I guess for the people that are nationals, I guess, UCC, can you probably have a better understanding. So it's better to put that in.
It's
Whereas like somebody who's just all rights reserved doesn't really understand it, that's good enough too.
yeah, well,
Like a non-national.
yeah, it's the perspective is no fellowship, no fellowship, no walking in someone else's footsteps behind them. It's about making your own footsteps.
Because I had a family member do that the other day, all rights reserved.
Yeah,
And the people that were all up in road, I don't care what uproar they want to get.
yeah,
All rights reserved. They
Right.
want another copy for her to sign. We signed, but don't we sign? If
Yeah.
we sign it,
Robert Reserve.
all rights reserved it again.
Yeah,
Right? And then she signed it, but I kind of I didn't let her get into the
yeah, get
UCC
into this
stuff.
part because
She
yeah,
doesn't
lack of
know
knowledge.
what
Right.
And I told
Yeah.
her that you have that right even as a straw.
Right. It's just you gotta, you have to know. You have to know. I mean, like, you have to know. If you don't know, just with even with what's your nationality? I said, well, I think I think don't even you don't know. You know what? I don't know, but I know I'm not black or whatever. You know what I mean? I know I'm not, Negro. I know I'm not colored. I know I'm not a slave, came from Africa. I'm not really there yet with regard to what my nationality is, but I know that I'm not Negro. I know I don't apply to any of these codes or whatever that you got, trying to use those against me to make me feel subordinate or anything like that. And that's on whatever level. You know what I mean? Like, you it's just like was there something with the blackboard? Sorry, with the blackboard? Was it?
No,
Yeah.
it was we talked about it.
Yeah. But anyway, even with there was a little brother, and they were in class or whatever, and the teacher is talking about the blackboard. Yeah, the blackboard, come on up to the blackboard, and you know what I mean, whatever like that. And everybody's going up doing their work or whatever like that. Then she gets to him, and he's like, I don't know what you mean. Like, yeah, come to the blackboard. Like, no, but the board is green. And that sent the teacher like, right, like, well, yeah, you're actually right. The board is green. But then now to change, and then come to the green board. You know what I mean? It's gonna mess up the whole vibration of the class, what they're learning, whatever like that. Because now you have to explain to the children, why you, the teacher, calling a green board black. You know what I mean?
Just like the beer. the beer, they say they kill a black beer.
Right,
If
right,
there's a white beer, they
right,
say they
correct.
kill a white beer.
Okay,
But then,
right, right,
but they only kill a white beer.
right. And all that's part of the
Yeah.
I mean keep the thing up, right? Keep that fraud going.
That's right.
It's like you go to the coffee shop or the tea shop to buy a green tea.
Yeah,
Tea.
right.
So what would you like in it? I don't have anything. If you're, oh, so you want
You want black, right?
Yeah. Green tea.
Right. Right. You know, so they do these little things, but once you have knowledge, on a certain level, that is supposed to be your gateway or your doorway to the freedom, because we've been indoctrinated, and the people who are the leaders don't want us to know that we've been indoctrinated. They want us to think that our indoctrination is them teaching sex ed or whatever in school, and that's the indoctrination. No, the indoctrination is you're not black. It starts there, right? We're not even dealing with the school and all that stuff yet. We have to deal with ourselves first, because you can't go to them and argue about, they're teaching children fellatio and all this type of stuff without a status. You're still gonna be in the wrong, because you're making an argument in a dead status. But you have to correct your status first. You might not like it. You might say, nah, I don't want to go through all that or whatever. That's just what it is. If the status isn't corrected, then you have what we see going on out here, people going in churches, killing people and stuff like that, shoot people on the street. All that stuff is happening because of status, because everybody who has a status, this not happening to them. Find me some Asian cop killing stuff that's going on. Find me some Asian church that they went into shot up. There's Asians that believe in Jesus. How come their church not getting shot up?
Case in point, I don't know if y'all were reading the news this week, or three things actually. There was a sinkhole out here just outside the door. It's just right there. But that aside, this week alone, 2 melanated people got shot. There was a black girl got shot out in the West End, and there was a brother that got shot over here by Edmonton and Caledonia. Now check this. The brother over here, he was a South Sudanese. They didn't mention anything that he was black. But it wasn't in the news the next day. Didn't mention anything that, they didn't say anything else. Once they found out he was a South Sudanese, off the air. Sister that got shot out in the West End, they're still talking about it. Black Lives Matter. But they did not mention the brother over here because of his nationality. And right away, they were already on it. Already like they putting it that the lawyers are there, everybody's talking about it. Nothing, no mention that he was black. Maybe on the first day, when they saw that it was a black man, but then after when they found out together, he's a national. While he was a national, they didn't talk about it again.
That's not good entertainment.
What?
Right?
There
Yeah.
you go. That's the fact that they're gonna get their ass.
Right? Just like talking from a Moorish perspective isn't good entertainment. If you're talking from a Moorish perspective, you can't have fun.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, well, I mean, we know that you can. Right? We know, we got jokes in class all the time or whatever. We know that it's fun to be Moorish, right? And the individuals that continue this game of not letting people know upfront about their status, even if they don't tell them, direct them somewhere that they can deal with it for themselves. At least inspire them to consider status correction. At least inspire them. At least give them a website or something. even dirty Moors. You know what I mean? Eventually they'll find their way to the true Moors if they're, you know, about studying or whatever like that. They'll find their way. I mean, nobody that is a studious Moor and has engaged opportunistic dirty Moors stay there. They don't get played by them. Matter of fact, there was a prominent 90s hip hop artist sent an email that he was dealing with for like and got gamed for stats. Now this is somebody who you would think that somebody who has information, recognizing that this is somebody, if we say the world of hip hop, he has high hip hop status. Not nobody. He is somebody who people know, right? Game went to some crap about auctioning property. Apparently bought a property that he never even got the papers for the property. Just like we never got the insurance papers, but spent our fiat. But think about property perspective, right? And then go check for people because, you spend your fiat, you go knock the doors. And people aren't found or whatever. Later, they pop up off the home. And they're back doing their little, doing their little show and dance. When you just game somebody for whatever, you do show and dancing, you just played somebody. And people try to contact you and numbers different and stuff like that. Email change or whatever like that. Oh yeah, no, emails can't come to this website anymore. This website is no domain name or crap like that. Right? That's what's going on. That's what we're dealing with. This is what we're trying to clear out. Because it's now becoming a thorn in people's freedom. The fact that you can't go to anybody that says that they're more and get it straight like how they're supposed to get it. You might go to somebody there more and you might pull out $5,000 out your account or your savings to go get some freedom because, they said that's how it's supposed to be done. And they got, all their videos got 25,000 views or whatever. So, I mean, that you got 25,000 views? That thing's been up 2 days? They must be legit. When you probably got some counter freaking.
Yeah, there's programs out there.
They got programs, make their stuff look good.
Just hit a button and boom,
Yeah, you get all these views.
Yeah.
Right? Programs for that. Yeah. That when, we put up something, we got like 500, or like that, we're like, damn, I tagged all these guys who have the 8,000 videos and stuff, like, none of them people came to check nothing. Obviously, those people aren't real. Obviously, that's not real numbers. So they got their little game going on, but once we're, nobody's not saying, we're not saying don't be a sponge. We're just saying watch what you're soaking up. Be open to information. You know what I mean? See somebody with a fez on, yeah, question them. But they know more than people who don't. Somebody says they're more, yeah, question them. But they know a little bit more than people who claim that they know stuff and they got degrees and they got whatever like that. They don't know. You know what I mean? But you have to do your own due diligence so that you're not playing. Got to filter. If you don't filter, you're gonna lose. And then when you lose, you're gonna blame Moors. When it's really not Moors, it's really, you should have been studying instead of trying to do stuff. So we're 3:12 right now. Anybody got questions, comments? Got any comments?
Well, if anything, I'll just the usual.
Yeah.
Just Islam family. Just basically putting something up there. In regards to when we talk about nationality and birthrights, first thing is starting to study. That's the first thing you got to do. I mean, that's what I did, and it's been working for me. A lot of studying, but more or less, we've put together a little bit of a information package coming in. Wanted to know more about the nationality and whatnot. What this package has is information on regards to getting started. First thing you need to know when you're getting started, when Cujo mentioned that you need to get yourself studying first. Before you go out there and sign any documents or do anything, learn what you need to learn. A couple of tools we need for that is an unabridged dictionary, as possible. Need to get yourself a Black's Law dictionary. Where's that one? Yeah, need to get yourself your, sorry? Oh yeah, whichever. Yeah, which one? Oh, well, we still have more back there too. Yeah, if you want a dictionary, we have a lot of them here as well too. We have maybe about 100 left, about 100 dictionaries left. Then we have to pass it. Let's put it up on the screen. So, Black's Law. Oh, it's not on?
Yeah, it's on.
Just want to get a picture up. There we go. I can see.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, they'll see. Yeah, I'm doing it. All right. What you're trying to get as well too is Beauvair's Law Dictionary. We don't have one in the temple right now, but get one if you can. Also, if you can, get yourself some old almanacs, some old atlases, and get yourself an old etymology dictionary as well. Also, Harvey Bay Publication website. Check that site out. Has everything you need on there, really. Also, in this package, what we have is our Divine Constitution of Moorish Americans, right? So it basically lays out all the laws and bylaws that, as a Moor, we follow, right? From Act 1 to Act 7. You know what? I'm going to read them out, actually, just so we could put it on the record. So it's the Divine Constitution of Moorish America. Act 1. The Grand Sheet and the Chairman of the Moorish America are empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of Moorish America. The Assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And it is known before the citizen of Moorish America. Bylaws. Act 2. Are to be opened and closed promptly, according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on a Friday, the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father, God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all citizens of Moorish America. No citizen is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All citizens must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all citizens must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. No organization of Moorish America is to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all citizens must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and a parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to the slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865, the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, or Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All citizens must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and a parcel of the uplifting of acts of Moorish America. Moorish Americans must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of Moorish America, and that you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters, obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God, Allah. Now, Islam, that being our concept, lays out everything in there as us as Moors should be following. It's on point. There's well, more or less in Act number 5, where it says no organization of Moorish Americans is to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. So, Islam. So when we talk about confusion, there's a lot of oral statements that Noble Drew Ali has put out. And us within the temple, we strive to follow those oral statements to the T. I mean, we might stay off a little bit, but we still try. They're not supposed to be causing any confusion out there. So when we say more or less, you know, your nationality is free, you know, you shouldn't have to be paying for it, regardless. Okay, so, and within this information packet itself as well, we have some, okay, no problem. We have law enforcement's oath of honor. It's in here. We have so comprehended nationality, domicile, basically mailing location, address, and SIN numbers. More or less, this is your gateway to start studying. It's not your paper. This is for you to start studying. Also, what we have in here is we have the membership form to become a member for the Moorish Science Temple of America. Subordinate Temple, number 5, up here in Canaanland. If you have any questions, you could email myself or Cujo. I'm at, my email address is amarylbay at hotmail.ca. You could do .com, I'll check it, but it's mostly .ca. So amarylbay, that's AMAURYELBEY at hotmail.ca. Islam.
Any questions? Everybody's good?
Who's writing the book years validation? Does that come with volumes or versions? Or editions?
Well, there's gonna come in like volumes 1s and 2s, but you have to look for the right ones. You just have to look for it.
But there's no one that the lawyers use, or
Huh?
is it one that the lawyers use, or
Yeah, they
use
use whatever they could put their hands on. Really.
the book
But
years?
the Bouviers and the Black Slaw, those are the 2 ones that they use.
Mostly book year and the local bookstore.
No.
Or
or they, yeah. Yeah, I know what I'm saying.
So yeah, so we'll close out. Once again, if anybody is interested, you know, we have got a little sign up there, small books, 5 notes, DVDs 2 for 20, and shirts. We got some other books as well. 101 questionnaire, Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple, oral statements, and Moorish literature. They are free of charge. There's no charge for those. Those are for, you know, individuals to get themselves familiar with Noble Juali and what he presented, and also an incentive, you know, for people to, you know, be welcome back, because you're going to be getting some grounding information for that. So if there's no questions, we'll close out.
Okay.
I want to say Islam to all the Moors online, the 22 that were online.
200.
200. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
My guide.
And my salvation.
And my salvation.
By night.
By night.
And by day.
And by day.
Holy Prophet.
Holy Prophet.
Ashe.
Ashe.